What's up everyone, Darcblade here, returning with my Mass Effect 3 multiplayer class guide. Today we are going to be taking a look at a new character, the Batarian Brawler. This is basically a Batarian Vanguard, and it specialises in close range combat and melee combat. Is this new Batarian class better than the other existing Batarians? Well, let's dive in and take a look. Now, like always, I spec my characters for the harder difficulties in the game. And with the Batarian Brawler, I put maximum points into Biotic Charge. I put points in all the areas I would normally expect to put points. Putting points into Barrier, so it recharges my Barrier as I use Biotic Charge instead of bonus powers. Weapon Synergy over Power Synergy, as the Batarian Brawler does most of its damage with weapons or his fist. And finally, I put points into Radius over Force and Damage, because Biotic Charge I use as a staggering move mainly to stagger opponents, and the more I can actually stagger with Biotic Charge, the better. I put a few points into Lash, mainly so I can set up my own biotic combos, and so I have a little bit of long range combat capabilities. I put maximum points into Blade Armor, putting points into Power Recharge over Durability. This is a personal preference because I really don't like having my Power Recharge timer restricted too much by Blade Armor. I put points into Damage Return over Recharge Speed because the Batarian Brawler will be getting close and has the potential to be meleeed. And lastly, I put points into Melee Damage over Durability because I am going for a melee class with the Batarian Brawler. For the passives, I put points in reducing the weight and the power damage, and for fitness, I put all points into increasing the melee damage. As for weaponry, I go with a nice shotgun as I'm going to be getting close to people. I took a lightweight pistol here because I am not 100% confident at having no long range capabilities. And although I do have Lash, I would also like a small lightweight pistol to help at long range combat. Anyway, let's get into the heart of the episode and talk about the Batarian Brawler's moves and abilities. Firstly, like all Vanguards, it has Biotic Charge. Biotic Charge is a great move that allows you to charge with Biotic Force into an opponent. The force of Biotic Charge will stagger most opponents, and it also deals out quite a bit of damage. It also allows you to get close up and personal with opponents, and this is great for the Batarian Brawler, as after you've used Biotic Charge, thanks to weapon synergy, your shotgun blasts will be stronger, and you have the potential to unleash your heavy melee, which does a lot of damage. One tip would be, as soon as you've used Biotic Charge, start holding the heavy melee button down. So, as soon as you come out of the Biotic Charge animation, you're already starting to wind up for that heavy melee punch. You do have to be careful though, because some enemies who, shall we say, are able to sync kill you, insta kill you, this can be a risky move. Instead, try to Biotic Charge, then instantly back away and start blasting them with your shotgun instead of going for a heavy melee. A tip for opponents who can insta-kill you is to biotically charge them in the back when they're focusing on your teammates or something. This way, there's no chance of them turning around quick enough to insta-kill you. Also, this way you can successfully activate the weapon synergy buff you get from Biotic Charge and increase the damage of your weapons. I know this is only a short buff, but it really does help, especially against targets that you can't safely melee. Now, one of the best things about Biotic Charge is that it can be used to restore your shields as long as you put points into Barrier. This makes Biotic Charge a great move to use, especially when you're specialising in close range combat and there's a chance of you taking damage. As long as you're not weighted down with too much weaponry, as soon as you start taking damage, use Biotic Charge to restore your shields and then rinse and repeat as needed. Biotic Charge can also be used to activate Biotic Explosions. These explosions can be your own or teammates, depending who has set up the Biotic Explosion. And that brings us on to the second move and ability that the Batarian Brawler has, which is Lash. Lash is a biotic move that fires a biotic field at opponents, latching onto them and then jerking them towards you. Lash does a moderate amount of damage, but unfortunately it has little effect on certain targets. For example, it doesn't do much damage or affect opponents who have shields, armors or barriers. This can be augmented slightly if you put maximum points into the Lash tree, putting a point into shield penetration, and it allows people who have shields and barriers to be affected by Lash. With points in shield penetration, Lash can do wonders against opponents such as phantoms. Unfortunately, I feel that Lash is not the best ability for the Batarian Brawler. This is because I use the Batarian Brawler as a close range combat expert, and Lash doesn't really favour close range combat. This is because of the actual animation that is required to use Lash, and the fact that the Batarian Brawler can dish out more damage per second just using his Biotic Charge and weaponry. Now I have taken Lash, but this is mainly for long range combat reasons, or to set up my own biotic explosions. Lash can be used at quite a distance, so it's good for missions where you have to, say, hack the computer, where you need to stay in a certain area, and you can't exactly go off biotic charging opponents at the opposite side of the map. Also, like I mentioned, Lash can be used to set up your own biotic explosions. Basically, hit someone with Lash and then follow it up with a biotic charge to activate a biotic explosion. Lash can also be used to activate teammates' biotic combos. Basically, if someone has hit them with a biotic move of their own, like Singularity or something, you can activate the biotic explosion at long range. Lastly, Lash has a wonderful ability, a quite quirky ability to send opponents flying off edges if you're lucky enough. Now that brings us on to the third and final ability of the Batarian Brawler, the unique move only available to the Batarian race, which is Blade Armor. When activated, the Batarian will cover their armor in these sharp razor blades, reducing the amount of damage taken, increasing their melee damage, but as a penalty, slowing down their power recharge timer. It also comes with a nice little effect of returning melee damage to attackers. All of these aspects of Blade Armor can be augmented. I personally put points into reducing the amount of slowdown on my power recharge timer, increasing my melee damage, and increasing the amount of melee damage returned to opponents. You may question why I didn't put points into durability, but because the Batarian Brawler has biotic charge, and if he has biotic charge with a point in barrier, it means he can restore his own barriers. This makes durability a little bit questionable. Why take durability when you can just manually recharge your barriers? Of course, this really only works if you haven't weighed yourself down with too much weaponry. If you have and you prefer using weapons than biotic charge or your powers, then I would probably advise taking durability. As for the passive abilities, I put points into Batarian Enforcer, putting points into increasing the power damage and reducing the weapon weight. With fitness, I did something quite rare for me. I put all my points into increasing my melee capabilities. This is because I am relying on Biotic Charge's ability to restore my barriers to keep me alive. But with all my points into increasing my melee capabilities, and thanks to Blade Armor's effect on my melee, as well as equipping my weapons with melee enhancers, means that the Batarian Brawler can dish out a hell of a lot of damage with his melee. As for weaponry, like I said at the start of the video, I go with a nice shotgun, as the Batarian Brawler for me is a close range combat fighter. I took a lightweight pistol as well, but this is really only for long range combat situations, and to be honest, it might not always be needed. Now as a race, the Batarians are a hardy bunch. They have a nice amount of health and shields, and they also have some of the best melee in the game. Their standard melee is very strong, and their heavy melee is one of the best. Unfortunately, their heavy melee takes a little bit of time to charge up, but if you put that in combination with Biotic Charge, which staggers opponents, it can be very useful. As soon as you've activated Biotic Charge, if you get ready with your heavy melee, it means that the staggered opponent won't even be out of their stagger animation before you're ready to hit them in the face with that heavy melee. Unfortunately, the Batarians as a race are quite slow. They have limited maneuverability. They also have no dodge mechanic at all. So if there's a projectile coming at them and you need to dodge out the way, well, I'm afraid you're going to have to take the hit as a Batarian. But, like I said, the Batarians are quite a hardy race and have a good amount of health and shields, so this makes up for their lack of maneuverability. So that is the Batarian Brawler in a nutshell. It's a very good close quarters combat class, combining Biotic Charge, shotguns, Blade Armor, and the melee capabilities of the Batarians means you're going to be dishing out a hell of a lot of damage at close range. Also having Biotic Charge to restore your barriers gives you a little bit of control over your survivability. All this adds up to a nice little class, and it is well worth trying the Batarian Brawler. Anyway, I've been Darcblade, bringing you my guide to the Batarian Brawler in Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.